Hello, lassies. Welcome to Coaching and a Cup of Tea with Mama Bear. And I have a very special guest with me. I'm so excited to have Jess Johnson, who is joining us from Hawaii. And we are so excited to get this episode done because I did not have power this morning. We have another hurricane in Florida and the power has came back. So we're like, oh, we got to start this podcast episode and get it done for you guys. This is season 8 of the podcast, which is insane and so exciting. And this whole season, we've been talking about, why do women go on retreats? What are some of the things we do on retreats? We've been talking a lot about what Jess says, that below the neck stuff, right? Like what is happening below the neck, sort of that mind-body connection piece that I think we can tend to forget about or put second. And so I'm very excited to have Jess come on, and we're going to be talking about emotions and feelings and things that are stored in the body. And later on this season, we're going to have Dr. Russ Kennedy, who's going to talk to us more about the same type of thing. But I just feel like it's something really important that people need to know about. And Jess comes on My Empowered Life and teaches the lassies in the group all about emotions, tapping, feeling, all of it. And every time I start a new group, everyone's asking if Jess is coming on. So I feel like it's kind of a treat to get to have you here on the podcast. And so Jess, if you wouldn't mind just, tell us a couple things about you and then we'll get started.
Yeah, thanks, Melissa. And I love your group. I think you have created such a beautiful space, and I love coaching it. I love being surrounded with that energy. I'm Jess Johnson. I'm actually a former therapist turned life coach. So I previously was a mental health coordinator in corrections system, and then I joined the Army when I was 32. I did 5 years as an active duty therapist in the Army, and then got out in 2017 to pursue coaching. And I really loved mindset coaching. And along the way, I kind of fell into emotional freedom techniques, tapping, which is where I really learned how to embrace emotions and the power of really getting mind and body on the same page.
Well, you definitely do that, and you have taught me a lot about that, and definitely are amazing students in the group, which I agree, Empowered Life, the group is amazing, and we just loved getting to have you twice this round, which was really beautiful. So, Jess, tell us a little bit about the type of work you do with your clients. Like, if I was coming to you and I'm like, you're going to help me, what would you help me do?
Well, first, we would help you define what it is you need help with, right? Sometimes, quite often people show up to consultations and they're just like, I don't know what's going on. I just know I need help with my life, and here are the things going on. And quite often that's what we start with, finding clarity. And EFT is amazing to learn how to get your mind and body on the same page, really so what it does, backing up even further, you're tapping on your points around the body called energy meridian points. That these particular points, they're points that are used in acupuncture, acupressure, but the specific ones we use in EFT help calm the central nervous system. And so you can calm your body. You can get your amygdala out of that flight, fright, fawn, freeze response. And then you're able to think more clearly because you're not distracted by feelings of anxiety or sadness or stress or anything like that. And so that is number one. If somebody came to me with that kind of vague, how can you help me? I would be like, well, first, what do you need help with? And if they can't define it, help them find clarity. And then we'd go from there. Then it's the new goal. Then it's the actual goal, right?
I love that you do this type of work because I think like, and I agree, I love both. I really love a mixture of mindset plus the identifying of like, okay, like what is this tightness in my chest? Why do I feel this way, right? And I think that in the groups that I work, which, you know, tend to be entrepreneur females, where the entrepreneur female slash working mom slash very busy leadership mom, like a lot of the time, as you know, you're very busy, like you can identify what your thoughts are, right? Like I can tell you what I think is going on, but like the ability to identify in my body took a lot more work. And I feel like a lot of the time it's because it's just so hard, right? Like the thoughts of the feelings in our body feel like very uncomfortable, the tightness in the chest or the stomach or whatever it is. And I feel like one of the things that you really helped the group with was like, it's okay to have those feelings and work through them, and also like this and approach. And can you tell the podcast a little bit about that? Because I feel like it was just one of the things that resonated so much with the group.
Yeah, absolutely. First, I just want to back up just a little bit and say, like, I think that doing the work of feeling your feelings is literally the most courageous work that people can do. Because as you kind of just mentioned, you know, something is happening in our body, right? And what that is, the amygdala, depending on your past experiences, is sending down signals to your body that you're truly in danger. And there is nothing like entrepreneurship to bring up all of our BS. Can we curse on this? I don't know.
Right? Like, on this podcast, you'll be fine.
So yeah, when you are putting yourself out there, it brings up all of your stuff, right? And so mindset work is so important. It's so important to learn how we think and how to choose thoughts that are in line with what we want to believe about the world. But you cannot think your way out of a past experience that is almost like holding you hostage to that, right? So I think about emotions. I teach they're a physiological response inside of your body, right? So they're separate from feelings. Often our emotions are like the subconscious or unconscious experience of what's going on around us, and the feelings are the conscious experience. Because what happens is our body starts feeling dysregulated, right? So say we are...
I feel like we need to like turn this into the quote card, aha moment. Like we're gonna like be Mel Robbins for a minute, and we're gonna be like, wait, stop, guys, listen to what she just said. Okay, say that again. The emotion is the unconscious part, and the feeling is the conscious part. Is that what you said?
Yes, this is how I think about it. Emotions, unconscious, you feel that in your body. And a lot of times it is responding to something that's happened in your past. Not all the time, right? There's definitely times where we feel anxious, we feel, sad, something is happening in front of us. But if you think, here's one of the best examples even of sadness or grief that I've ever heard is when somebody has passed away, somebody close to us, we don't know to be sad about it until somebody tells us that they've passed away, right? And often we don't know even to be sad about it unless somebody's taught us that. I remember there was somebody, a relative once that passed away when I was younger, and it wasn't somebody that I was particularly close with, right? And I remember my mom asking me after she told me, like, why aren't you sad about this? And I was just like, what am I supposed to be? Like, why would I be? Like, I didn't know them that well. It wasn't somebody that was a big part of our lives. Like, okay, it's not like I was happy, but I just was kind of neutral to it, right? And I didn't even know to be sad about something or that I should until she told me, like, this was her way of saying, like, this is the appropriate way to act when somebody had passed away, but not necessarily, right? There's a lot of people who see celebrations of life in moments of people passing. And so coming back to that kind of emotional piece and that physiological response that happens in our body, a lot of times we learn those emotions sometime in the ages of like 0 to 6, right? We're scolded by a parent for doing something wrong, and maybe we didn't even do anything wrong in that moment. They were just distracted, and you went as a toddler and almost fell down the stairs, and parent freaked out and hollered, right? And depending on like the kind of level of that moment, like a 3-year-old doesn't know to tell itself like, oh, mom and dad was just scared. Like, it's okay. I'm okay. They're okay. This is going to be okay, right? 3-year-old learned like, my God, this is terrible. I did something wrong. And then depending how often that happened when you were younger, you might grow up, and then every time somebody raises their voice, you immediately get that response in your body. If I have done something wrong here, right? And so that's what I mean when I talk about like the unconscious experience of our emotions. And then when our brains start going like, oh, I feel that I did something wrong feeling, it must mean I did something wrong. And then that's going to create the conscious feeling of shame or the conscious feeling of guilt, something like that, right? But when you are...
mindset work comes in, right? Like what I do with it, like how my perception of it, is it a problem, etc. But if you don't deal with the body part first, like you can't even get there.
Yes.
Like, am I safe or am I not?
Yes, totally. And what EFT allows you to do is calm that central nervous system while recalling that terrifying emotion of shame or fear or whatever it was, or that painful voice they hear that, depending again on their experiences, like let's say they didn't have a supportive parent. They had a parent or an authority figure that was constantly putting them down. And so anytime they're made to feel that same way, they see it as a parent. And right, growing up, we look at our parents and like, oh, whatever they say is factual, right? And we can grow up and do like personal development work and go to therapy. But when you find yourself in those moments where you're like, okay, logically, I know this isn't true. I know I'm smart. I know that I'm accomplished. But there's still this feeling in my body that keeps coming up that makes me feel like I'm really stupid. Like that's not true. EFT allows us to recall that emotion or that memory and then really dispel the energy around it. So when I do my deep dive work with clients, we are finding those specific memories and we are discharging all of that energy around that. So you're no longer carrying that with you in your day-to-day. That part of you is integrated and you can often even think of the memory and be like, oh, sucks that happened. And also, I know that I'm okay. I know that I'm smart. I know I didn't deserve that. It feels real instead of you constantly in your head trying to reassure your body. And often we don't do reassuring, right? We judge ourselves.
I know.
For feeling that way. Oh, why are we doing this again? Oh, you're so stupid. You can see that we're not out, we're not in danger right now. And then that just kind of continues to pile on all of those feelings on top of just a proportionate reaction to your having giving your past experiences.
The reason why I decided when I was designing Empowered Life over 6 months to have some of this body type work in it is because a lot of people, Jess, they'll go through years and years and years of therapy, years and years and years of the, cognitive behavioral type therapy, sometimes medication, sometimes no medication. They'll do lots of mindset work. You know, they'll do the things that, you know, I teach them, the tools I've created in the program, the thought resetting, all of these things, and they still feel stuck. And so when I was like designing it, I was like, so I have to have this piece that for those people who their mindset is sharp, they understand how to thought reset, they know how to detox, they can do the journaling and the meditation and all the things, and they know how to do, you know, go through the thoughts, the feelings, the actions, the results. They got it all down. And yet here they are saying, this still doesn't feel right. Like something is, I'm having these panic attacks, or I'm having this feeling of like I'm stuck. And so I really just want to like stop for a second and say to the listener, if you are listening to this and you feel like you got all the mindset stuff down, and like you've read all the self-development books and you've done all the therapy, like this could be the missing piece for you, right? Like this is the part where now you've got all that thought work done. And I personally believe you need both, right? Because now once I learn how to control the body piece and let myself know I'm safe, and that, oh, this is just like a trapped emotion in my body and I have to discharge it. Now I know, all right, to tell myself the right thoughts to get out of it. But unless I look at the body piece, I'm going to continue to feel stuck. I'm going to continue to feel like I'm not growing. And what comes with that, and the experience of all the women I've worked with, is shame and guilt of, why am I not further along? Why is all this work not making me feel better? Why am I not growing? I thought I would be further along. And I just want to like give all of you lassies listening a big hug and say, like, it wasn't worthless. I promise. There's just like another piece.
It is my belief that it just every minute that we're breathing, we're one step closer to the moment where everything comes together, right? Every moment that you choose to do something for yourself, it is never wasted. It's never going backwards. It is never not worth it, because it leads you to the moment everything changes. One of my favorite beliefs is that is to remind myself, like, shifts happen in an instant. So it doesn't matter if like this morning or yesterday I felt like crap and I felt like everything was burning down around me. And you know, when we're entrepreneurs, it's always about our business, right? Like never going to get a client, like whatever. And when I reach for that, like shifts can happen in one instant. It allows me the space and grace to just know, what do I need to take care of myself right now? Instead of what typically, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs do is then immediately go into this action mode. Right? They distract themselves with doing another task or writing an email or anything like that. Anything other than taking the step back and really being like, how do I give myself space and grace?
Well, one of the things that just made me think about there was, for the listeners, Jess and I actually met in a coaching master's 6-month coaching program with Lindsay Doltzloff. And one of the things that Lindsay has taught us that we get to give to our clients of a gift is to not I describe awareness like this. Like I tell this story about how I went on a hike with my 4 kids, and it's not a story, it's real life. Like I legit went on a hike with the 4 kids by myself to go see a waterfall, and I like stared at the sign that was like, you know, you are here, and like I went off in the wrong direction, right? So I took my kids, and my little girl was like 3 or 4 at the time, you know, so she's crying, we don't know where we are, like blah blah blah. And I like tell that story to say, like, if I had just stared at the map a little bit longer where it said you are here, I would have had such a better fun time by going in the right direction to the waterfall rather than what I ended up doing, which was horrible. And I kind of like look at this work like that, right? Like the awareness piece that you just mentioned there, like I can't even know about the body stuff or the mind stuff or any of it unless I do have that self-awareness. I'm not like when you, and the reason that triggered that thought there for me was like when you said about distracting yourself, you start to see the things that you do, right? Like you'll be like, that's, and like you teach us when you come on the mastermind, like just being aware of it. I'm not shaming myself. I just like, well, that's interesting that I chose to watch 3 hours of Netflix and, you know, eat the entire time. That's wonder what that's about. Like, what am I not looking at or not working on, or what am I distracting myself from, you know?
Yeah. Well, but, you know, I also believe that we are allowed to take it easy on ourselves. Yeah. And sometimes it is okay to sit and watch Netflix and eat it. It's a choice, right? And sometimes that's the choice that we choose to give ourselves. And it's okay. It gets to be okay always, right? Because typically that's when we look back on that and they're like, and we compare ourselves to somebody else. Oh, I just wasted that time. Rest is productive, period. And whatever you choose to do during that rest time is productive. And you get to own that, to claim that. But when you give yourself that time, and Netflix, if you're feeling exhausted and you're like, ugh, I'm just going to go and hide away for a little bit and absorb myself in some kind of feel-good movie or a crap movie just so you can cry along with it. Like, let yourself do that, and then let that mean, man, I just took care of myself and I got all that out. What do I feel like now? But often what happens instead is we do that and then we're like, oh, I just wasted my time. What a piece of crap I am. That never, ever, ever has to be true. That you can just make an agreement to never, and I'm a girl who loves to break my own rules, but I never say never, except in very tiny instances, right? But the moment you catch yourself in that, choose something new. I needed that. It was actually productive. If I believed it was productive, if you believed it was productive, what would you do in that moment instead of wasting any more time shaming yourself for taking that break?
Well, what you just said is exactly why we must spend so much time on awareness, right? Like, I need to know when I'm numbing, in fact, I did a post about this on Instagram today, and I said self-care, sometimes it is not responding to the text messages, being alone, and not asking for help. Sometimes self-care is asking for help, not isolating, responding to the text, right? And it's like knowing which of those I need, but if I don't do some of the internal work, like, none of it feels good. The not writing doesn't feel good. The writing back feels good. The being alone doesn't feel good. The being with people doesn't feel good. Like, neither.
Yes. And that's why something further. That's why energy work is so important. Doing that, honoring that work of there are parts of me that need help right now. And you said about emotions like there's something I need to discharge. I think of it actually as less of like discharging and more of like just something I need to integrate. Because in my personal work, one of the things that I really had a big breakthrough in earlier this year was this part of me. I just kept feeling a lot of anxiety and a lot of deep, deep sadness. And because of this awareness that you're talking about, I know the difference in my body between like, I don't like to use the word appropriate. I use proportionate, right? What's proportionate to this moment versus appropriate, because what's appropriate for me and how I feel is different from what is appropriate for you based on our experiences. So I'm always really careful with language, but I was feeling this sadness that just, I couldn't feel where it was coming from. I couldn't pinpoint in like the current. And so I was working with my EFT practitioner and really kind of found this part of myself that was so scared of getting left behind, right? Like she felt unacknowledged. And, you know, that part of me was like the part of me that had made a lot of really terrifying decisions in a place of her life that felt really uncertain to do something new. And so she was just kind of, inside me or in my energy field, like just feeling so unappreciated and so sad and so like lonely. And when I was able like to go in and integrate that part of me and just be like, oh man, like, thank you. We're not discharging you. We're not getting rid of you. I still need you because we're getting ready to go through some more scary shit, right? It doesn't stop. I still need you. I think we just need to we know better now. And here's some things that we can do. And then you become like a co-creator with that part of you that you still need. And then they integrate into who you are now. And then it feels like this almost hit of power. Like you feel that shift when it happens. And then you're kind of ready to get up, go tackle the next goal. But that really being able to sit with that, and you're right, know the awareness. What is the difference between what is proportionate to what's going on around me right now and what doesn't feel like it's mine? It's just too much for what's in front of me.
I love that. When I do keynote speeches, I don't know if you can, obviously the listeners can't see it, but you can see that little doll over there. So that's little Melissa. It has a little picture of me when I was like 7 or 8. And whenever I do keynote speeches, I take it along with me. And when I start it, I will say to someone, I'll say to like the audience, all right, lassies, like 8-year-old Melissa cannot do this keynote speech for you. Okay. She is terrified that like one of you are going to laugh. You're going to whisper something to each other about something she said. So what I'm going to do is I love her and I have to take care of her. But like in this moment right now, 39-year-old Melissa needs to do the speech, right? Like she has to do it. And so you over here, will you look after her for a minute while I do this, and then I'll grab her back at the end because she wants to watch. She just can't be up here, and it's like using that analogy of like all those things and those parts of me that are fearful and scary, like you say, like normalizing it, integrating it. And I love that you distinguish between my word choice of discharge and integrate, because I also do believe very much words are so powerful. Right. And you and I have been taught that with coaching too, right? What do you mean by align? Or what do you mean by, I don't know, like authentic, right? What is that to you, right? And so I love that you said that, like you're integrating those parts of you. And yeah, a lot of it comes from the awareness piece of it and moving from, all right, like I got the mindset stuff down now. Like, how do I help my body? Like, how do I stop this tightness in my chest? Or like, I mean, the world feels, and maybe it's because I'm in Florida and we keep getting hurricanes and it just feels tense, right? Like Publix feels tense. Jess, Publix is my happy place, okay? Yeah. Like Publix and Starbucks. And they're tense. Like Starbucks is closed again because, they always close when the storms come. Like Publix has like nothing, right? The water's gone. The stuff's gone again. Last time they lost all of their food because the generator didn't turn on. And so like that emotion and energy is all around right now. And it's like, what do I do with it?
Yeah. And often it's being able to sit with that, right? Like, again, like I talk a lot. So EFT is oftentimes presented as a way to process, an emotion, or shift an emotion or release an emotion. But the reason that it is known to be able to do that is because the first thing that you need to do in order to process or shift or release a feeling or emotion is to be able to feel it. And that is the part that quite often people rush. And they and when I see people put the emphasis on EFT as a process, then I watch them rushing through tapping on these points, and it's almost very frantic. And then they're like, all right, I did this in 3 minutes. Why don't I feel better? Well, take your time with that. And you have to like feel into it first. So I teach people how to feel. I use the language of feeling your emotions, knowing and teaching that that's what allows the shift or release. But I typically try to stay away from the language of this is for the purpose of shifting, because, and again, people rush it. They rush the feelings work when sometimes it's just learning to be like, yeah, I'm anxious today. I'm still anxious and I've calmed my body, and I'm still anxious, calm my body, and I can also still move on with my day, right? You can calm your body down and then be able to move forward. It never has to mean that we, have to take so much time feeling or processing a negative emotion that we stop everything, right? It's a journey. It is a process. And the process isn't some 5-step thing that takes you 5 minutes. And I think that's often what people get confused about when they think of processing an emotion.
What I was just thinking about when you were saying that is that is the same across coaching clients. My clients that I see, and I hate to say do the best because that doesn't really seem like right what I'm trying to say, but the clients that I see feel really good at the end of a 6-month coaching program with me are the ones who are not in a rush. And I will do a whole spiel video on lassies. Do not rush this. Please do not rush it. You cannot undo every teaching of the last 40 years in 6 months. It's impossible, right? Like we can. And if you rush it, what happens is you miss the lesson. You just missed it.
Yes.
Right?
One of my favorite kind of affirmations is what's meant for me will never be withheld. Yeah. So relax and let the next action be revealed. Yeah. And I know you and I know as mindset coaches, we're always like, wait. We don't focus on the action. We focus on our thoughts, right? Because our thoughts and how we think, that's what's going to, especially how we think about ourselves, is what's going to like let the action be revealed. But that's what that affirmation reminds me of. The relaxing part of it doesn't mean go do nothing. It means that I'm thinking about myself in a different way. I'm thinking about like my belief in myself and my confidence in the impact that I can make. And when I'm spending that time thinking about that, thinking about the clients I have and how to help them, thinking about potential clients and what I'm going to do to help them and what the world looks like when people really feel like the power of this, like then some amazing idea comes out, right? But if I'm constantly in this urgent state of urgency, I got to figure it out right now, I am closing off that part of me. And I'm also not in that belief, right? Because if you are in belief of that, if you're in belief of whatever is meant for you will never be withheld, don't have the anxiety about it. Well, that's not true. I'm known for my transparency and me acknowledging I'm a human first and a coach second. I still feel like get anxious moments, right? But that I choose then to give myself the space and grace to sit with that reminder and really take the time to let myself feel that. So affirmations are not just something you look at and smile in the mirror as you say them to yourself, right? They're just not a thing that you say. They're a thing that you feel in your body. You believe those words, period.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. I think one is that work is slower, but I think it's easier. I think the emotion work is harder, but quicker. It's almost like once I get to the point or got to the point of where I'm like understanding how for me that I process emotions and how to sit with them, right? Like now that I feel like I can do that, it feels like the ability to do that for me is quicker, right? Like I now know like how I'm able to do that, but it's for clients, it's really like something they'll text me. Actually, the other day, someone was texting me and saying, I'm in the emotions. Like I'm just feeling really sad. And it's interesting when someone says things like that as an emotion, as a coach who is mindset focused. But I've worked with this person for so long that I know it's not a mindset issue because she knows how to use her brain, right? Like she knows how to move and thought reset and move from, all right, is this true? Like all the questions we coach them how to do it, all the self-coaching stuff. That's not the issue. She really did just have to sit with the feeling of sadness.
Yeah, my favorite question to ask my clients or myself when I'm going through that is, what is the most loving way I can treat myself right now? What's the most loving way I can talk to myself, validate myself, acknowledge myself? Some days it means the most loving thing is putting on my PJs, cuddling with one of my cats and, reading a book, giving myself a break. Other days, it's giving myself that reminder, like, Jess, you got this. Yep, you're feeling sad, and that's okay. But there's this task that we're getting ready to do in front of us. We can do this too. Let's just take one step towards it in this moment, right? And so again, like you said, it comes back to that awareness and in knowing, what is it that I need right now? What can I take on? And in that, you said slower but easier. Like, I just think that the way I think about this work too is when you take the time to build a steady foundation, you are set for the rest of your life. You can do anything at any point when you have a rock hard foundation. You can, make an addition. You can build higher. You can build out. You can knock the whole damn thing down and rebuild something entirely brand new that looks vastly different on top of that. But that doesn't happen when you rush the foundation, you use shoddy materials, and you don't take the time to really think, like, what do I want this to look like? Because there's some things about us that are never going to change, right? Those core values. Different values might change over time depending on our goals, but we all have those 3 to 4 things that make us up that are not going to change. And when you build on that, knowing that, you're set.
Yeah, I agree. I continue to really, I love that space and grace that you said, but I really believe that so deeply because we're so hard on ourselves. I am lassies, you are here. You have literally paid to be here. You've put your time and your energy, you're so far ahead of the game. You're, like you said, building that foundation and just knowing, please be patient with yourself. Know that, I don't know. I feel like the emotion work is level 2. That's what I tell them. I'm mindset is like you said, the foundation, we got to get this down. Otherwise you won't survive the other piece. But let's do this first. And then now you're ready to do the emotion part. Now you're ready to be in the sadness because you've built this strong, like you said, foundation to know you can handle it.
Mm-hmm. I think it ebbs and flows, right? So when clients come to me, I already, kind of told you, when somebody comes to me and they're so they cannot articulate their goals. They're like, I just know that I need help. I can't even fathom. I can't even visualize what that is. I can't even like formulate a goal. Then I know we're going to start with energy work first. We're going to start with calming the body so they can think clearly. Other times I work with people. I tend to work with established life coaches. And so they come to me having that, probably to your point, like the mindset stuff, but then they're like, I know something else isn't connecting with me, here. And then we focus on, where their thoughts are about that, and then starting the energy work, and then just weave the two in between together each session.
Getting to know themselves. I mean, there are clients that show up and they don't know their favorite movie, and they don't know what foods they really like. And that is a lot of my clients in the beginning, because a lot of them are entrepreneur mama bears who, have really sort of put themselves to the side for a long time and had their kids or their spouse be the primary concern. And now they're like, wait, like something doesn't feel great anymore.
Yeah. And when we're trying to set those boundaries too, as women, because not only do we have like the literal experience of whatever your current situation is, right? Like we have society's expectations on us. And then we're like literally carrying the weight of like generations and generations before us that were taught that it's our role and responsibility to be the caretaker, and that we are selfish for doing anything different, for choosing to do something different with our lives. And I always like coming back to language, the definition of selfish is the like willful and purposeful choice to choose yourself to the detriment of somebody else, right? So you're acknowledging like, oh, this is going to be terrible for somebody, and I'm going to choose myself anyway. You don't put any thought into how it might impact people. Right? Which I just don't, when we're on living our lives and we're choosing to take care of ourselves, it's just not selfish. Even if it does, it might hurt the other person. It's still not like we're choosing to take care of ourselves for the purpose of hurting them, right? We're choosing to take care of ourselves. We're choosing to put ourselves first in order to make sure that we're still there for others. One of my whole self-concept around being an entrepreneur and even like a wife, a family member, a friend is I'm at my best for others when I put my needs first.
Yeah. Fact. Agreed.
Yep.
Yeah, I actually did a podcast interview the other day, and I was like, I don't know about you, but like, I don't know any like selfish women. I've yet to meet them. Like, where are these selfish women? Where do they live? Because I've never met one.
Yeah. I'm always like, I'm not selfish. I'm self-centered. And then, people like kind of look at me like, well, that sounds terrible too. And I'm like, but does it? Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I be the center of me? Right? That's what leads to more confidence, being able to set boundaries. Like, It starts with us like seeing that. And then we're able to like pull in those opportunities and experiences and people that are going to see us and support us for where we are. And it's not going to feel like that drain on us. They're going to understand, like, of course you need this. How can I support? This is how I can support you in this moment, right? Instead of like asking people like vaguely for support or offering people vague support, like when you are confident in that for yourself, you can look to a friend and be like, hey, you're going through a hard time right now. This is what I'm available for to help you, right? Instead of, I'm here anytime you need, like, because then sometimes that gets us into trouble. Like, because what if they call in a day, I'm not feeling it, and it's like, oh, didn't mean that thing though, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to do an episode with you because I wanted to really push into, if you are feeling stuck and like you're not growing, or you've spent years doing mindset work or cognitive behavioral therapy or medications and something still doesn't feel right, it's probably because you got some body and energy work. You got what Jess says, below the neck type of work to do. And hopefully there are people who are listening to this, Jess, and say, yeah, I do. That's what it is. That's the missing piece, because that has really been true for a lot of my clients. They get this piece down and then there just feels like there's something else not quite right. And that's why I do a lot of this work, the somatic type exercises at the Magical Lake House on retreat, because there's space and time. And, you know, a lot of the time, as you know, when there are these big emotional releases for people, like it's exhausting afterwards, right? Like, you want to talk about needing rest after that work, like, for sure there needs to be rest and space for it. And so I hope this episode just gave the listeners permission to say, I want to look into more of this work. I want to look into EFT. I'm going to look up Jess Johnson and find out how I can move to that piece of work. And we'll link up all of the different things, your Instagram, website, whatever you want to put. We'll put it all in the showcase notes so everybody can figure out how they can work with you, because you're a magician. You're amazing.
I love that.
And everyone who works with you loves it, and everyone in my mastermind always raves about every time we have you, and I just really appreciate the work that you put into the world.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, Melissa. I love it. You attract some amazing women.
All right. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye.